Seishi Hinada is a member of ZENKO, the National Assembly for Peace and Democracy, as well as MDS, the Movement for Democratic Socialism in Japan. He will make a short report on the struggles against the construction of a new US military base in Henoko, Okinawa, and the ZAP campaign, the ZENKO Henoko Anti-Base project, which DSA has also been organizing with. Hinada, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jiro-san. Hello, my name is Hinada. Thank you for inviting me to this international panel. I will talk about ongoing struggles against construction of a new US military base in Henoko, Okinawa. Next slide, please. This is a map of Okinawa and surrounding areas. Please look at the positional relationship of Tokyo, Okinawa, Seoul, Manila, Guam. The arc-shaped area surrounding Okinawa, drawn in red color, is the Southwestern Islands, or so-called the Ryukyu Arc, the center of which is Okinawa Island. Next slide, please. The Ryukyu Kingdom was an independent country ruled by the Ryukyu dynasty until it was invaded by Japan in 1609. It had a trading-friendly relationship with China. It is said Ryukyu had a demilitarized culture of non-weaponry. In 1879, the Meiji Japanese state forcibly annexed the Ryukyu Kingdom and established Okinawa Prefecture. Toward the end of the Asia-Pacific War, US troops landed on Okinawa Island on April 1st, 1945, and Okinawa became the only place in Japan where fierce ground battles were fought. It is said that 120,000 people, which was a quarter of the population, were killed in the battle. After defeating the Japanese Empire, the Allied forces headed by the US General Headquarters occupied Japan. It was then that the building of US bases started in Japan. In mainland Japan, ex-Japan Imperial Navy's airports were expropriated by the US and were turned into US military bases. In Okinawa, however, US troops forcibly deprived the islanders of their land for bases, while residents were forced into internment camps. They say our land was taken by bayonet and bulldozer. A typical example of this is Futenma Air Base. In 1952, San Francisco Peace Treaty was signed and Japan regained its sovereignty, but Okinawa was abandoned by Japan and remained under US rule. The Japan-US Security Treaty was enacted at the same time, and the US secured the prerogative to freely use more than 100 US bases stationed in Japan. On May the 15th, 1972, control of Okinawa was returned to Japan from the US. It was the 50th anniversary just 3 days ago. Okinawans hoped that reversion of control to Japan would mean a denuclearization and sharing the burden of hosting US military bases. However, as this line graph shows, after the reversion, the share of US military bases in Okinawa increased from 50% of the bases to 70%. Nuclear weapons are deeply suspected to exist in storages in Okinawa. Okinawa land area occupies only 0.6% of all the Japanese land territory, but more than 70% of areas exclusively used by the US military in Japan is still concentrated on the small island. Like any other local communities that host US bases, Okinawans have suffered from violence and crimes caused by US soldiers. To look at the years only after 1972, more than 6,000 criminal cases caused by US military personnel have been revealed. And among them, 581 are heinous crimes like sexual assault and murder. Military-related accidents are countless and daily occurrence. In September 1995, three US soldiers sexually assaulted a 12-year-old girl. Indignation, which had been fermenting for a long time after the war, exploded because of this case. The perpetrators were first protected by an unequal clause in Status Forces Agreement, SOFA. According to the clause, if suspects escape into US bases, Japanese police cannot detain them until they are charged. This meant Okinawa police were unable to directly interrogate these US soldiers suspected of sexual assault This added fuel to the fire. On October the 21st, 85,000 people rallied in Ginowan City. Then Governor Dr. Masahide Ota apologized to the crowd of people, saying, "I must apologize as governor, who should first and foremost protect the dignity of a vulnerable girl, but failed to do so." The anger of Okinawan people was directed not only at the bases, but also the uneven SOFA, Status Forces Agreement, and Japan-US Security Treaty itself. The ruling class were driven to a corner and had to do something to pacify the people's anger. This is why the US and Japanese governments set up a Special Action Committee on Okinawa, aka SACO, and issued its final report a year later in 1996. It said that they would return Futenma Air Station in 5 to 7 years. This was 20 years ago now. This is Marine Corps Air Station Futenma, the most dangerous base in the world, they say. It lies right in the middle of Ginowan City. You can see a lot of dots in different colors. These are kindergartens, elementary schools, high schools, universities. There are 120 public facilities in all. You can see how people's lives are pressed by the base. In 1998, a military helicopter crashed on Okinawa International University. In 2019, a metal window frame of a military helicopter fell on the playground of Futenma Second Elementary School. Recently, toxic water waste contaminated by PFOS leaked out of the base into a river, which is used for drinking water in a residential area. The Japanese government chose Henoko as a site for an alternative facility of Futenma. They started to fill the bay with landfill in December 2018. That was over 3 years ago. However, as Mr. Okuma explained in a DSA online panel in March, the construction plan has a lot of serious defects and issues that make the base impossible to be completed. First, issue number one, super soft seabed in Oura Bay that goes down as deep as 90 meters. Over 70,000 sand piles should be driven into the bed for reinforcement, but no workboat is available to reach that depth. Issue number two, right below the site run 2 fault lines that are suspected to be active, and they run sandwiching Henoko munition storage. Issue number three, Henoko construction site is right in the middle of Hope Spot, a designation given by Mission Blue to international locations, home to many diverse species. It's home to sea animal, endangered dugongs, and precious coral reefs. Here, please watch the next footage taken by Youth ZENKO delegation to Okinawa a week ago. Yeah, this is the coral reef that exists in the Oura Bay. ZENKO members are watching this through the glass, what they call glass boat. This is from Oura Bay. Yeah, we can see how pristine nature is reserved there. Thank you very much, Nick-san. Yeah, I will continue. Issue number 4, the embankments are not earthquake resistant enough. A recent government report says there is a possibility of a magnitude 7 to 8 class big earthquake occurring around the Southwestern Islands, which will surely cause the embankments to collapse. And the issue number 5, Henoko Base's 2 runways do not meet the length required to be used as a standard airport, civilian or military. This fact was pointed out by GAO, US Government Accountability Office, in 2017. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is the GAO report in 2017. You can see the length of runways of these bases, you see. Henoko planned the runways is very short, 1,800 meters. This is including the overrun area. So in reality, substantially, it's even shorter than that. Thank you. Next slide. Yeah, these pictures are present Henoko site. The picture on the left is of the present view of the Henoko site, taken from an angle often used by the Japanese government. This picture makes it seem as though most of the landfill process has already been completed. So the government uses this picture to make people give up. However, if seen from the Ora Bay side, like in the picture of the right, you see that the vast area is still not filled. It's no more than 8% of the total earth and sand necessary to complete has been filled. Even on the Henoko side, an additional 6 to 8 meters of landfill depth must be added. It is 3 years since they started the reclamation work. 8% after 3 years. How many more years are necessary to complete the space? 30 years or 40 years. In 2013, the Okinawa Defense Bureau said construction of the base would take 10 years and cost 230 billion yen. But according to Okinawa Prefecture's own estimate, construction will cost 10 times as much, and it's impossible to tell when the base will be completed. Even the US establishmentarian think tank Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS, says that completion of the construction is nowhere in sight. But both governments continue to stick to Henoko, saying that Henoko is the only solution for returning Futenma. Tokyo emphasizes that both parties are in complete agreement on this point. Why? The Japanese government has its own scheme, that is to send its military abroad and maintain its permanent military presence overseas. The purpose is to protect the rights and interests of the Japanese global capital that is accumulated all over the world. Henoko will be the main outpost for the dispatch of troops. Tokyo is trying to realize this goal by strengthening and emphasizing its military ties with the US. Military tension with China, DPRK, and Russia gives Japan a golden opportunity and excuse to achieve this goal of military expansion. The recent catchphrase, free and open Indo-Pacific, FOIP, should be seen in this context. Japan already has an overseas military base operating in Djibouti in the northeastern tip of the African continent, where Japan imposes status of forces agreement more unequal than the one between the US and Japan on Djibouti. Currently, the Japanese government is militarizing and fortifying not only Okinawa Island, but the whole area of the Southwestern Islands. Next slide, please. In the Southwestern Islands, missile bases, munition depots, radar sites, runways for field carrier landing practice are being constructed. Henoko sits in the center of this whole scheme of militarization of the area. Therefore, if we can make them give up, it will be a deadly blow to the Japanese military strategy as well as the Japan-US military alliance itself. It will be a great step forward to building peace and detente in the far East Asian region. When the government celebrated the 50th, inverted comma, the 50th anniversary of Okinawa reversion, Jinshiro Motoyama staged a hunger strike just outside the Prime Minister's official residence. He is one of the young leaders who initiated the prefectural referendum on Henoko Base construction in 2019. The result of the referendum showed over 72% of voters opposed the new base in Henoko. Of course, the general opinion in Okinawa stays intact. The Henoko base construction has been delayed for so long. The main factor is people's struggle and resistance. Even under this pandemic, protesters regularly engage in sit-ins in front of the Camp Schwab to prevent construction. Recently, ZENKO youth visited the site and listened to what a sit-in striker had to say too. Next footage is from before the pandemic started in April 2018 in front of Camp Schwab. Can we see it? Yes, thank you. People got together in front of Camp Schwab to prevent the dumping cars carrying earth and sand going into the dumping site. Yeah. There are a lot of riot police, but people were united. Most of the residents in the local area and supporters, even from mainland Japan. Yes, thank you very much. Next slide, please. This is a flyer for ZENKO Online Speaking Tour 2022. We invite 8 speakers not only from Okinawa Island, but from other Southwestern Islands like Miyako, Ishigaki, and Amami. From May 28 to June the 5th, we hold meetings at 8 different cities in Japan to raise our anti-base voices against militarization and fortification of the whole Southwestern Islands. Next slide, please. And we are now working with DSA International Committee to spread ZHAP, ZENKO Henoko Anti-Base Project campaign. This campaign is to send out the anti-base message from Henoko, Okinawa to the peace and justice loving international community to press the US government to give up this absurd scheme. By doing so, we aim to strike a wedge into Japan-US alliance and stop the construction of a new base in Okinawa. Please visit ZENKO or ZHAP website, and you can sign petitions for this cause, and please circulate the message. We will keep standing firm in solidarity with people struggling against war and militarization in other places in the East Asia and islands in the Pacific, as well as in the United States. Long live international solidarity, long live. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you.